after a long day of work. Okay, right. To think of how I want my hair now that you've said that. I'm like, how do I want my hair to look? I'm just going to record audio on this as well. So here we are. I mean, around more than 6 months now, around maybe 9 months since we launched the campaign. And I remember talking back then about the kind of vision of getting all of these people to sign up to become Befrienders. And here today, in what is going to be Befriending Week very, very soon, we're sitting at around 1,300 people that have signed up. When you look back at the campaign over the course of this year, I mean, talk us through a little bit about the impact that it's had.
I mean, I think one of the main things around the impact for us was about raising awareness. So obviously, hugely hope it was about raising awareness. Obviously, it was far more sign-ups than we'd ever expected, which in some ways was positive, but was a challenge for us to manage to process. And we did know that there would be a dropout, obviously, from people who initially sign up to something and then, for a variety of reasons during that process, drop out. But I think 9 months down the line, it's fantastic to see that we now know that we've got over 77 volunteers at last count who are now actively volunteering as Befrienders, putting in a couple of hours a fortnight, a couple of hours a week, actually making a difference to people's lives. We know that we've got about another 15, possibly 20 people who are still in process. So those people are actually making a difference to people's lives in communities around Scotland, not just within the Forth 1 area, but right around Scotland, and I think that's fantastic. But I think for us what's been so great as well is just that whole raising awareness of the issue, because whilst that's the numbers for the Take the Time volunteers who've come through, we know from some of our member organisations that through the campaign they had other people contacting them directly saying that they were interested in hearing what their organisation did or how they could support their local organisations.
And loneliness and isolation, even I discovered from being a part of this campaign, is a little bit of a rabbit hole. Once you start to look down and investigate the issue, it really opens your eyes to seeing just how many people can be impacted, whether they are feeling lonely, whether they have family members who are lonely, neighbours that they don't know who could be lonely. It's such a massive issue that needs tackled, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about loneliness. It is such a massive issue. It still is an issue that has stigma around it. So although part of the campaign actually also helped to raise awareness of it and hopefully reduce some stigma around it, the reality is that there is a stigma around it. So even when we do have some statistics around loneliness, actually the chances are there are more people out there who are lonely but wouldn't want to actually say I'm lonely. So yeah, it is an absolute rabbit warren to go down, and there are lots of people out there. And I think one of the other really positive things that we've been trying to do, and we are trying to do during Befriending Week this year, is also get the message out there that actually sometimes somebody who's feeling a bit lonely but has lots of things to offer could consider volunteering. And actually by volunteering and giving their time to somebody else, they're helping to stop themselves becoming lonely, or they're helping to build their community connections because they'll meet other volunteers, they'll come in contact with an organisation. So I think there's that dual aspect of befriending, and that actually volunteers get lots out of it too.
It's almost as well you have something to offer if you recognise that you may be feeling these things, and instead of waiting to be befriended, you can take that step and go out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of our volunteers and befrienders talk about that they feel more connected, or they've enjoyed spending time with somebody. So it is absolutely helping them stay connected and not be lonely or isolated.
Reminds us why befriending is so important and why it works.
I think befriending works because it's about a relationship, and I think sometimes in society we look at older people, or we look at young people, or we look at people in need for whatever reason, and sometimes our relationships with them from the point of view of care professionals and things can become quite transactional. It's about what do they need and what care package can be put in or what can be done. I think what makes befriending special is that often it's about a relationship between two people. So it's about that giving up your time to spend with somebody else. And that might be having a chat, it might be going out and doing something, but it's about building that relationship with that person, and for both people that relationship being meaningful. And I think that's what makes it probably quite unique in lots of ways. And also I think for the person who's benefiting from the befriending, that's for them what matters so much, because it's about that somebody has freely chosen to spend their time with them.
And you kind of eat, sleep and breathe this, but you must hear stories every day of fantastic relationships that come about. What are some of the things that you hear that stick with you?
I think from the point of view of, we recently this week have seen a new perinatal befriending service launch. with one of our members. And there's a service that's going to be providing support to women during pregnancy and just after the birth. And I think the thing about befriending is about the difference it makes. So, you know, earlier this week I was hearing a mum talk about the difference that befriending project had made to her, how she felt so alone, out of control, and that having that befriender allowed her to have a little bit of time for her, with the baby still there, but a little bit of time for her, and for her to regain a bit of control of her life. We hear other stories where people will say the only person I've seen this week is my befriender, and it's the highlight of my week when they come to my door and they make me a cup of tea and we have a chat about, I don't know, Strictly, or we have a chat about what's been on the news. And I think, you know, at this time of year when it's getting colder and darker at nights, it is that thing that those social connections and somebody coming to visit, or whether that be telephone befriending and you know you're going to get your phone call from your friend to have a chat with, just makes such a difference. I think the other thing that is really important as well, though, is we hear about the benefits it has to the volunteers. So I've already mentioned about the idea that volunteers maybe are tackling their own loneliness, but also for some other volunteers it might be about doing something totally different. So sometimes people will volunteer as befrienders and then decide to have a total career change. You know, they might decide to go into the care industry, or they might decide to go and do nursing or something along those lines as well. So for the volunteers it can open up lots of opportunities, or for students who are volunteering it offers lots of good hands-on experience, and I think that's the thing, it makes an impact on both of those groups.
And you've got a busy week coming up, don't you, with Befriending Week. Tell us a little bit about that and really what you're hoping to, the message you're hoping to get across that week.
Befriending Week is a national awareness raising week, and the idea behind that week is to let people know about befriending, what it does, what it can offer. It's also about encouraging people who are out there to think about whether or not they can commit to befriending, which is a big commitment. You know, can they really spare a couple of hours a week for a considerable number of weeks or months ahead to really develop that relationship with somebody? So for us, Befriending Week is about trying to raise awareness. So we're delighted to be back here with Fourth One, talking to yourself about it, and for that message to be getting out there as wide as we can, that befriending, it is Befriending Week. It is also a chance for us to really celebrate befriending. So this year, our theme around Befriending Week is Befriending, What an Impact. And this week we are trying hard to share the impact of befriending, so that people out there understand why it's such an important intervention, and why it's something worth doing.
And it's never too late for people to sign up to become a befriender. I know they can still do that through our website. The campaign is still ongoing. So what would be your message to those people who maybe heard the campaign maybe the first time round, or maybe hearing it for the very first time now?
I think it's about thinking seriously about whether or not you can commit to giving up a couple of hours a week, either every week or every fortnight, and thinking about, can you do that for a committed amount of time? Because befriending isn't a one-off visit or a one-off piece of volunteering. It is about a length of time commitment. But if you really want to make a difference to somebody's life and be able to change that for the better and also get a little bit of something back, then I would absolutely say that if you've got that ability to commit to that time limit, then you should think about befriending. And we're still happy to accept sign-ups through Take the Time. Once somebody signs up through the Take the Time campaign, we would then put them in touch with local befriending organisations for them then to go through their recruitment and training.
So overall then it's been great to see a more, I'm going to start that question again. So overall it's been great to see better awareness really around the Take the Time campaign and the impact that's had, whether people have signed up or whether they've even just said to you that it's something that they had never thought about before.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think there has been a huge amount of awareness around it, and I think it also helps from the point of view of organisations who are delivering befriending at times also struggle to raise their profile or to get funding to run their services. So I think the campaign has been able to raise awareness amongst funders, amongst the general public, just about the value of befriending, and also for some people who've maybe never thought about that they needed a befriender, it's also helped them think about it. So yeah, from our point of view in raising awareness, it's been a hugely successful campaign, and I think we do have to acknowledge that as a result of that campaign we have got more volunteers out there now who are delivering befriending who wouldn't have been without it.
Happy?
Is that okay?
Yeah, great. Now watch me go up here and... No, do you know I just had this